A very welcome to this new episode of Off to 7,000 Islands. My name is Eric and I live here in the Philippines together with my wife and, well, her family. And today is a special day. It's rice harvest. So rice harvest is 2 to 3 times a year and maybe 4 times if you're really good. But this is October, the middle of October, so September, October. After 120 days there's harvest and the weather is a bit not great. Now is sunshine, but yesterday was brutal rain, so everything is quite wet, which is not great. But the harvester has trucks so he can go through. Right now we are waiting for the harvester and then it gets going. But like, I just want to show you a bit how the rice fields look like. So this is how rice looks like when it's ready. So it's quite dry, so they only stand in water when they are planted. But you can see it's very wet here. I'm not gonna step in it now, but they are fairly dry in the end, so there's no more water. And then you have those little barriers going through the field, you know, in different places where it gets flooded. And then, so how this one was planted, it wasn't planted with seeds, but it was planted by sticking in those little seedlings, like a little plant already, which is prepared, and then they stick them in the mud, and then it grows. That's why it's like fairly consistent. So it's sticked here by hand. We do fertilize with cow manure, so it's naturally. The fertilizer is natural, not like other things like nitrate and stuff, but we use the natural one. But yeah, that's here the field, and then on the other side of the road there's our other field, and we have apparently some more fields which are already harvested. But this is where my wife was born, actually, like there. On those 2 trees in the middle there was a house, and that was the house where my wife, when she was 2, celebrated her birthday. And that tree actually there, that's a Nara tree, that's the national tree of the Philippines, and it's hardwood. And that tree was planted when the youngest sibling, no, not the youngest boy sibling was born. It was planted, so it's 26 years old now. Quite cool. And then here, over here, there's a carabao, a water buffalo, and behind it is the house of the grandma. So it's quite interesting, and I thought I'd take you along during the day here. And this is how, for all the Westerners, this is how rice looks like. It's a cereal, like, well, other cereals really. So it's a grain or cereal. I'm not sure the distinction between grain and cereal and when you say what, but yeah, this is the rice. Look at this, there's a spider. And you see, interesting spider. But yeah, so this is how it looks like when it's ready. And yeah, it needs to get then dried, which we bring half of it gets dried in the machine and the rest gets dried on the street. What you can see here all the time in the Philippines, that the harvest gets dried on the street. But yeah, half of it gets dried here, the other half gets dried in a machine, if I understood it right. And yeah, these 2 fields here provide for the whole family and the hotel. So if you come here to our hotel, we have a hotel, then you see that. but let's hope we start harvesting soon before any more rain comes. Oh, and since we started using natural fertilizer, actually it is we have much higher yield per harvest. So we have less harvest during the year, but we do have more yield per harvest, which is quite impressive. So it's obvious that the ground is better and not as drained and everything. So the rice looks much better, but it does grow slower. And we do have 2 rice harvests here on those fields, and then in the beginning of the year, after this one, basically now we plant first beans, which is recovering some of the ground, and then we plant onions, because onions are much better to resell and they are much more worth than rice. And we do have here quite a long dry season, so it's worth to have onions here. And they actually grow here in the south of Mindoro, because if it rains too much they don't grow. But we are here in a kind of a dry place for the Philippines, so that's why rice and then onions as well. So that's just another thing, but we're still waiting for the harvester. Alright, and while we've been waiting, we had some nice breakfast, and I need to sort of make a voiceover now because it became too windy and my microphone was picking up all the wind as well. So it's I do a voiceover, and I just found it interesting to see all the rice getting put in and all this. It's really interesting. And the harvester, they are small harvesters. They have 2 people in the back which are changing the bags. So they not manual fill, but manual tying the bags from the rice, which the harvester puts out, and then they drop them on the field. And the people with those carabaos, with those water buffaloes, they pull them out on the street where they get put out, and then they get taken out of those bags, get dried either on the street or in a drying facility. And yeah, the harvester is from the Farmers Association here, and it gets rented basically by us or the farmer who actually runs the fields for us. So we own the fields, we get some of the harvest, but the main thing goes to the farmer, and we sell most of that rice. So and what we keep for us and the hotel. And then those people who are coming with their carabaos and pulling out those rice sacks, they get paid per sack of rice. So they come automatically when you start harvesting the rice. And I just thought it's interesting to show you. I think it's beautiful to watch the harvest going on. And of course, then in the middle we also had lunch with some fish. We grilled it there. It was quite windy, but they managed to grill it, and it was nice for all the workers and all the staff. And then yeah, we continued until the late afternoon. And I just thought I make some remarks now in the end for some of the things I have learned and talked to while I have learned while talking to people. It's, for me, it's just interesting, and for us it's a side business. But one of the problems we have here is that because farming is hard and the profit is very low, that many of the farmers are actually farmers dying out. Like in Western countries, we don't have enough farmers. So our farmer is 40 something and he is one of the youngest in our town. And that already says a lot about it, because young people, they leave for Manila or they go work somewhere else, which it's more profitable. And this is a huge problem for the Philippines, and the government regulations who supposed to make it better for people, I'm not sure if they always do. Well, you know how governments operate. But this is too much politics. I'm not sure. But yeah, and also of course too much fertilizer, which then destroys coral reefs because it gets washed out into the ocean and all this kind of stuff. So monocultures, like single culture fields and things like this, we're trying to mitigate that. We have empty times on the field where there's cows and grass, and we're trying to change the crops which are on it. But some parts, especially here in Mindoro, they can only grow rice effectively in order to make money, because it is much wetter, much more rain. We here in the south can grow much more things because it's much drier climate. But yeah, it's a huge problem, and all this kind of stuff. So farming is here difficult as it is in Europe. At least I know lots of farmers in England where I lived, and they're having a tough time. And they also compete with crops from China, for example, like here in the Philippines, which is very difficult. And lots of things need to be done, and the solutions are difficult, I think. But I hope you learned something from the Philippines. Now the onions are already in it, and maybe share it if you're from the West. I think we have lots of stereotypes about rice farming, and lots of images from films and so in our head. And I hope I changed some of them or clarified some of them in this video here as well. Please like it, subscribe, and we see you in the next one every Tuesday in English. And I just leave you here with some of the pictures from how it gets dried on the roads, and basically all the roads look here in rice harvest look like this. And then after rice harvest comes also maize, which gets also dried on the roads. So so most of the time you need a big road for drying all those crops. But I see you in the next one.